So yesterday I got an email from a listener. Yes, once every blue moon, I do get emails from listeners, and I greatly appreciate it. So if you want to send me a question to be answered live on air, it's at Cole Thompson writing at gmail.com. There'll be a link down below. But the guy says, Cole, love the show, love your energy, but I do want to get your thoughts on if your opinions changed of the college football playoff committee snubbing Florida State and putting in Alabama after the Rose Bowl. And I've had time to think about this. And so instead of just emailing you back, Dan, I'm going to go ahead and say it on air. So let's talk about it. But if you are new here, welcome on into the channel. My name is Cole Thompson. I'm a radio show host based in Houston, and I talk college football daily. So if this is the type of content you enjoy, plus coaching searches, transfer portal news, national championship buzz right up the road from me, make sure you smash that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment telling me your thoughts on, was Florida State screwed? Was Alabama lucky? Was one other team screwed in the process? Tell your friends, your family, your mortal enemies, best of bros, the drunk dude passed out in the Publix parking lot, FSU fans, Alabama aficionados, and college football fanatics everywhere about this channel, because we are on the race to become the #1 YouTube show talking about our favorite sport daily. Make sure that you follow me on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson. That way, conversations surrounding our favorite sport never have to stop flowing. Okay, so let's get this out of the way. Florida State was snubbed from the college football playoff based off what we know in the past. Based off what we've seen over the last decade plus, Florida State was snubbed from a playoff spot. That being said, Alabama deserved to get in over Florida State. And that's not because I believe that Alabama is a far superior team than Florida State. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Get them at full strength. Let's see what could have happened. That's neither here nor there. The reason I bring this up is because of, at the end of the day, opinions are not changing. Let me make this clear. If you thought Alabama belonged in the college football playoff when their Big A logo appeared in the #4 spot on Selection Sunday, your opinion has not changed. And a loss to Michigan is not going to get and say, you know what? Florida State did do its job. They belong in. And if you're a Florida State fan and you're saying to yourself, Alabama doesn't belong in, and my heart sunk seeing that A on Selection Sunday, your opinion hasn't changed. And it has nothing to do with the bowl games. It has nothing to do with the Orange Bowl outcome or the Rose Bowl outcome. Alabama could have won by 50. Alabama could have lost by 50. Alabama could have won by a game-winning field goal. Alabama could have lost the way they did. Florida State would have gotten in if you thought Florida State belonged in the playoff. That's just the bottom line. And we see this happen time and time and time again. And it occurs in so many different avenues, especially in the world of college football when it comes to takes. Excuse me a second. The one that pisses me off the most, and one that has always bothered me, is when we talk about expectations for a team. Like the Deion Sanders thing. Deion going into the year was projected to get to 4 wins. That was exactly what was on the table. 4 wins, and if you do anything more, you've overexceeded expectations. Well, they beat TCU, and then they beat Nebraska, and they beat Colorado State, and now opinions are changing, saying, well, if Deion doesn't make a bowl game in year 1, it's a failed season. Well, if Deion doesn't make a bowl game in year 1, he's not the right guy for the job. The expectations were at the start of the year 4 wins, and he got to 4 wins. So he actually did exactly what we thought he was going to do. And the same thing goes when it comes to college football playoff scenarios. In my opinion, if there's anybody that you want to have a gripe with, it's Georgia. Georgia is the team that everyone should have a gripe with right now. And it's for a multitude of reasons. Let me knock this out of the way real fast. Number 1, Georgia in the Orange Bowl proved that they were a good enough team to make it to the college football playoff. Never in my lifetime and never in your lifetime have you seen a team go from the #1 spot down to the #6 spot and then put on the performance that they did. Never in your lifetime. And I get it. Opt-outs are a big deal. Injuries that come when it comes to the national championship and the NFL draft. All of those things are going to be a factor into it. But Georgia had second stringers and third teamers beating the backups at Florida State. In my opinion, that's more of an argument for you to say Georgia, even though they lost to Alabama, probably a better team, probably a more superior roster. The buy-in and the culture and the belief down in Athens was pretty special. And Alabama won in Atlanta 27-24, and they absolutely deserve the right to go to the CFP because of that win. But if you play that game 10 times, how many times does Georgia win? 8, 7, 6? That's more so the argument. And here's the other argument with it. If you're a Florida State fan, you really hate Georgia this morning. You really, really hate Georgia. And I'm sorry if I keep drinking water, guys. I'm sick and I'm just trying to get these videos out. But here's why you hate Georgia. You hate Georgia because if Georgia wins, the argument goes out the door for Texas. If Georgia wins, Texas no longer can hold over their head, hey, we beat Alabama. We beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa at Bryant-Denny Stadium by double-digit points. Then you have to put in the undefeated teams. Then you have to give the nod to the undefeated rosters. Because you gave it to Michigan, they were an undefeated team. You gave it to Washington, they were an undefeated team. You gave it to Georgia, they were an undefeated team. And you're really going to sit here and tell me, yeah, no, we're going to leave out Florida State for Texas. So the entire process is already mentally messed up beyond belief. And you expect me to change my opinion on the situation. If you're a Florida State fan, be pissed. Be pissed as all hell. You have every right to be upset with the College Football Playoff Committee, especially knowing what a special season you had. And they lied to your face. They lied to you. We can all agree with that one. The CFP committee came out and said after the Jordan Travis injury, we will not penalize Florida State for missing a quarterback. And 2 weeks later, we come back out and we say to them, they weren't the same team. So they weren't the same team because they didn't have a quarterback. So we're penalizing them for not having a quarterback. That's fine. But the bottom line here, people, is that at some point it's over. It's done with. It's already in the past. We already know what happened. And Florida State was not going to be beating those teams. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. They would not have beaten Michigan even if they did have Keon Coleman not opt out, not have Jaheim Bell opt out, not have Jared Verse opt out, not have Trey Benson opt out. They still would have lost to Michigan. They still would have lost to Washington. They still would have lost to Texas. And they would have lost all those games by, I would say, at least double digits. Maybe it would have been close. Maybe with the tape running running the show, you would have felt more confident. Maybe with a month of preparation to be able to get your offense underneath your roots, you would have felt good about the situation. But you weren't winning that game. And unfortunately, for TCU, they are the culprit of all of the bad juju that comes along with it. Because TCU, on one hand, can say to the world, hey, we beat Michigan. We lost in the final game in the Big 12 title game, came back, we beat Michigan, and we got the doors blown off us by Georgia. Same breath, you can say the same thing about Florida State. We barely squeaked by a team like Louisville. We barely squeaked by a team like Michigan. And Washington kicked the living dog crap out of us in the national championship. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of the game. But my opinion is never going to change simply because of the outcome that I saw on the field. And also, let's just put into perspective, losing to Michigan, the number one team in the country that has 3 losses in 4 years. 3 in 4 years is not really that big of a nuisance as we want to make it out to be. They're not that way. Michigan still is one of the best teams in college football. And you may hate to hear about the strength of record and strength of schedule, but it didn't matter on Saturday when they played against Alabama, an SEC powerhouse that was fully locked and loaded, and they did not have any opt-outs or any major injuries. That team still showed up. And they held their own. And they outworked Nick Saban, and they outworked Alabama's offensive line, and they outworked Alabama's defense in the second half. So you can't hold that against them. So the bottom line is that for Alabama, it's not an insult to say you lost to a team like Michigan. And for Florida State, be pissed off as all hell. Be pissed off. But in a new version of the college football playoff era, here's the good news. You do what you did this year, you're not being left out. It's a moot point. Plain and simple. It's a moot point. Do I think that Alabama should have easily gotten in the playoff? Absolutely. Do I understand where Florida State fans come from? Because if they were undefeated, they handled business, they did everything that was asked of them, and based off the criteria we've seen for the last decade, they should have gotten in? Absolutely. I get all of that. The problem here is that there was always going to be a flawed spectrum because now you have Georgia sitting on the outside. They put on a performance to remember with 60-plus points, and Kirby Smart's pissed off because of all the opt-outs. Kirby Smart's pissed off because of the transfer portal. He wanted a better game, and because if they basically squeaked on by Florida State, he's mad at the world in college football. But they had an argument to be in the college football playoff. You really are going to tell me that Georgia losing to Alabama by 3 points at a neutral site location drops you down 5 spots? Give me a break. You have a better shot of selling me of who's on Jeffrey Epstein's list at this point. That's the way that I view it. You have that argument. You have the argument for Florida State. You have the argument for Texas, and you have the argument for Alabama. And so now you kind of get what you wish with the expansion of the college football playoff. Kind of get what you wish with expansion of conferences, and Florida State is going to do everything in their power to join one of the 2 big wigs. That way they're never left out in the process. But For a Florida State fan, I apologize to you. I feel for you. I understand your frustration, but at the end of the day, it's a stupid point. Move on, move forward. Congratulations. 13-1 season. Most teams would kill for that. Most teams would absolutely kill for that. But we can all agree in the same breath. Were you screwed out of a playoff spot? Absolutely. But for Alabama fans that are sitting here saying, Cole, you said that Alabama, I still agree. Alabama deserved to be in the playoff. Someone was going to be left out and hung to dry. This year, unfortunately, it was just Florida State. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. Don't hit the X button yet. Make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with all of our daily content found on Just Saying It and anything else that we post on this channel. Bye.